Hello, hello. All right, good. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out and joining us on this Friday for a wonderful program that we have lined up. My name is Francois Luong, and I'm the co-executive director of the Diasporic Vietnamese Artist Network, better known as DVAN. And if you aren't familiar with the work that we do, you can find out more about us at DVAN.org, DVAN.org. We're a literary arts organization based right here in San Francisco. We do a lot of work. We do publications, we do writing residencies and public events such as these. So there's a lot going on, and we essentially support writers and amplify their voices and their stories. Our mission is really to move the voices and the stories of the Vietnamese and Southeast Asian diaspora from the margin to the center. So we do that through our various programs. A couple of housekeeping items before we begin. All of the author books are available for sale at the register, so please do help support the authors and your local independent bookstore, Green Apple, our favorite community bookstore. So please pick up a copy. Our authors are available after the program to sign books. The restrooms are in the back, but please wait until after the program to use them. They're behind me back here. First of all, I really want to thank Green Apple Books. This is the second year we're partnering with them for our DVAN at the SFPL Library Reading Series. And they have just been an amazing partner, giving us so graciously this beautiful space. And special thanks to Car Johnson, the events coordinator at Green Apple. They're amazing. And thank you to all of the Green Apple staff for setting up this space for us. So we're really excited to be here and partner with them. Yay! Buy books. Okay, and then of course, thank you to the San Francisco Public Library, our partner, which sponsors these events and makes them possible. And also thank you to the San Francisco Arts Commission that funds our events and makes the work of organizations like ours, nonprofit organizations, be able to continue to do the work that we do. So with that, we have a wonderful program. Forgive me, I'm going to read the bios because I don't want to mess them up too much. Let me see. Give me 1 second. Oops. Okay, here we go. All right, so without further ado, I'm very excited to invite our first reader, Francois Luong. Francois is originally from Strasbourg, France, and he is a poet, a translator, and an occasional illustrator based in Oakland. He has translated the works of Francois Turcot, Esther Tellerman, Nicolas Tardy, and other poets from France and Quebec. With T-Boy, Minnie Phan, and others, he is a member of Art Hack, a loose collective of artists and activists. His work can be found or is forthcoming in Volt, Mississippi Review, New American Writing, The Canary, Verse, and elsewhere. He is currently working on a manuscript tentatively titled Ways to Translate. Please give a warm welcome to Francois.
Hi, I'm generally terrible with public speaking events. I tend to be behind the scenes manning the console at community meetings. I've a little gratitude to open this. I'm thankful to DVAN for inviting me to read, and I'm thankful to my longtime friends, Team Minnie and Aimee. I couldn't dream of a better lineup. So as Kathy mentioned, I'm working on a manuscript titled Ways to Translate. Culturally, I'm very French. And speaking of legacies, some of the poets that from whom I take most influence are the French poets that came about in the 1970s, people like Claude Roy-Journoux or Emmanuel Leca or Anne-Marie Albiac. And they tend to write book-length poems, essentially. Speaking of Anne-Marie Albiac, Joseph Simas just told me that the translation of Mesa Voce is getting its new edition soon, and that's very exciting news for me, obviously. But for Ways of Translate, I decided to shake things around, but I tend to be very lazy in that I just reuse the same title for many poems over and over again. So, Ways to Translate. Yeah, so every poem is titled Ways to Translate, essentially. Adrift in Ankylos between two shores, the small cluttered room needs any attempt to avoid an architecture to failure. Erased names and replaced addresses all around what anchors the notion of all around against the wind or against the flow. Can that be motion without constraint or in the loss of the counter of going against in trying to reach the other shore? So the idea of the project, the non-project, was to go through all my translation notes and find the weird questions I had and basically riff a poem out of that. Among other translation considerations. So it is probably the work that is most influenced by my work in translation. From this territory, nominally or permanently owned and yet unnavigable, the transition from one marker to another circles around from one tongue to a few more words or fewer to describe similar things. An economy of description that gives and receives, passing through and over, stripped of sentiment, each shorthand for the material at hand. Another poet who is a major influence in my writing is George Oppen, one of the objectivist poets who was part of the same cohort as William Carlos Williams and Zukowski. One of the jokes I've been making to my other poet friends is that right now those are supposed to be my George Oppen IWW years, in which George Oppen was essentially a union organizer, and wherein for 25 years he essentially stopped writing poetry until he came back from exile from Mexico because he fled there due to anti-communist persecution. And in preparation for this reading, I basically went through all my notebooks and was like, oh, I wrote so much more than expected for someone who's not supposed to be writing. And this poem was written on my way back from a trip to Montreal, where I went to see my very good friend, the poet François Turcot, who's probably the poet I felt most at ease translating because we write in very similar manner. First winter in a city not mine, and no longer winter but in memory. By the partition walls were one and another searching for a body, blemished without silence, for a body in growth by the margin of. Here doors and windows do not elicit a question of authenticity, let alone what you know of the sea, what you know of the well, in this inland port of call. So I don't remember what most of the poems that I hear, what I was trying to do with those. So this series of books called Best American Poetry. Apparently, this year's edition is going to be last to be published. The series is run by David Lehman, and at the end of the anthology, instead of author's bio, there is a description of what the poet was thinking or what they wanted to achieve whenever they wrote this poems. And those descriptions have always baffled me in that I almost never remember what I'm trying to do because of the length of the projects that I have, or at least the individual page. Not a time for departures or time for chance encounters. Hand in hand we followed the salt-devoured curvature of the concrete jetty, encircling the cove, divorced of the topography of the flow or the literal, through rubble at a time, before morning at a time for chance encounters. Along the shore of the bay, currents at rest as long as the structure stands. So we were given hands to split and hold. We were given tomorrow to draw the unlit windows of the city on the other shore. Time for many other tides. There you go. This one actually, I can remember what I was trying to do. It is actually the first poem that was written in this series. It was written on the occasion of the wedding of my friend, the poet Matthew Henriksen, who's passed since. And the day before the ceremony, we and other poet friends of his who had come to Fayetteville for the ceremony had gotten together, and we were talking about When Art by Elizabeth Bishop and how it was such a great poem. Yeah, so there will be references to When Art in this one. With two cities, with two rivers, or even a continent, not with this observation, with the number two, make all the small gestures to keep the sentence simple. Between two cities taps through glacier tops, a desert basin and a prairie, or perhaps a journey south between two rivers, an open hand for times of drowning, or to reach through a plexiglass window toward a new shore or a new continent on a rickety fishing boat by night. While we hold on to all those who would miss us more than just two words, one shape than another, and instead of a destination on the outside chance, the thread continues to be spun from the empty museum industry occurs, from this room to another, through the walls or down the city. From the courtyard peering through the blinds, have you ever seen the cities of another spices? The room grows married to the curvature of the lens. We could move on from these construction lines marked in graphite and chalk to help with perspective and will, if not for the inherent contradictions of the materials at hand. Because this is a non-structured project, it gives me more liberty to address friends in those poems. And so this one is addressed to my friend Amish Trivedi, with an epigraph from his book, Our Relationship to Motion Has Changed, that goes, there are no resolutions, only more crises coming on. What of this latest calamity? What of the red tip mistaken for the absence of the red tip? Plastic glistening unmistakably for metal. It's all about the finish. Then there was none. Out of two. The cruiser arrives on time in all time zones, akimbo or ablaze. Drop the prop near the body to explain its small shape. Then the course will find fault with scene. How this should have been a surrender. How the spine couldn't bend any further back. Can't fall down, or on or below the ground. How this path ends without ending in what's right. Occasionally, I write in French. Big surprise. Sometimes I translate myself back into English too, and then I realize that some of the gestures that I'm doing in French do not translate very well into English. And sometimes other people translate, such as when they're surprised that I'm sending them text in French when they were expecting something in English. And this one was written on the occasion of the visit of the Montrealer poet Benoit Jutras to the city. So I'll read the French first, and then the English, and then the second part in French and in English as well. Actually, I'll skip to the English. The header dropped around how to carry over the reflective, if not without a word, through the room along the back of a mirror, without glass, without frame. They know blurred, who does not repeat. Even now the plural is lost. At the back, 4 objects, singular and numerous in themselves. A letter falls, colorless, she. And here the translation of my French poem is by the French poet Aimee Phan. What wonders, negation of what a step, on the floor, the lathe and the fibers bend under the weight of a drawn sentence, by the body twisting and unraveling there, where surrenders, humble. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Francois. So again, the theme for this evening is Legacies. And as many of you may know, 2025 marks the 50th anniversary of the end of the war in Vietnam that basically brought so many of us here and around the world, and also the formation of the diaspora. So with that, I have the pleasure of introducing our next reader, Aimee Phan. Aimee was born and raised in Orange County, California. She is the author of 2 books for adults, We Should Never Meet Stories, and the novel, The Re-Education of Jerry Jung. Her most recent book is The Lost Queen, which is available for purchase, and the first book in a young adult fantasy duology. She has received fellowships and residencies from the NEA, McDowell Colony, the Rockefeller Foundation's Bellagio Center, Jurassic, and Hedgebrook. Her writing has appeared in the New York Times, Time, USA Today, and CNN.com, among other publications. Please welcome Aimee.
Hello, thank you for coming. I'm sitting here because I have bad eyes and lots of light. Thank you so much. Thank you, Clara. Thank you, Green Apple Books. Thank you, DVAN and Kathy and all of my wonderful co-readers. I've been part of DVAN since I moved to the Bay Area, which was 17 years ago, 16, a long time. This is definitely a community that has helped shape my writing and helped me be brave about what I write. So yeah, this is my first young adult book, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about the inspiration for why I did it. My first 2 books are literary fiction, but they always dealt with young characters. And I teach at a college called California College of the Arts, where Minnie also went. And I remember teaching literature classes, and it was really hard to get my students to read books. They loved coming to class, they loved chatting, but they weren't buying the books, they weren't reading the books. And I was trying to figure out how do I get these kids to read? Because they're so excited, they're so passionate. They were here at this school, honestly, not to not for like a traditional education. They came there to make art. They came there to be inspired. And so one semester I decided to teach a young adult literature class because there was also a children's literature class we ran that was pretty successful. So I thought, okay, let's try this. And I had no problem with any of the kids not reading the books. They were all reading it. They were devouring it. They were reading it ahead of schedule. And I asked them, why these books? Why not, all the other literature classes? And they said, these books were their best friends growing up. These were the books that helped them figure out who they were, who they wanted to be, was their community. It helped them solve problems. It provided comfort when they really needed it. It provided escape. And that's when I realized how important young adult literature is to many people. It's often sometimes the last books that you'll read because then you get busy, life gets busy. And so those are the books that tend to sit in your core memories. Like you remember scenes, you remember things. And at the time I had a daughter, very close to age. She is now 17, but I remember thinking I wanted to write a book that spoke to her and that speaks also to Legacies. I thought so much about what was wonderful about Francois' reading is that so much about conversation between different poets and artists. And for me, I think this book was a conversation with my children. It was a conversation also with my ancestors, a conversation with my parents who have since passed, because the book deals a lot with just like, what does it mean to be able to communicate with our ancestors, our ghosts? Because, spoiler alert, the main character in this book is mortal. So she has many lifetimes that she is trying to remember. So another inspiration for the book, The Lost Queen, is the Chung sisters, who you might know about. They are the founding queens, the founders of Vietnam. And I was always fascinated by their story. These were two warrior sisters who rebelled against the Han Empire to establish the country of Vietnam. And I thought, oh, wouldn't that be a great kind of jumping off point for a book? And because I was interested in YA and also fantasy, I thought, well, what if the Chung sisters, who, after ruling for 3 years, reportedly committed suicide rather than surrender to the Han? They drowned themselves in the Hat Giang River. And I thought, well, what if they didn't die? What if they were reincarnated as two high schoolers in San Jose, California? And so that is where I took the book. And then by that point, when you're going into fantasy, it is very easy it's just such a slippery slope. Your imagination is kicked open, and suddenly there were dragons. Suddenly there was time travel. Suddenly there was immortality. And I felt like I found this freedom in writing this book that maybe I hadn't had before. And that's why I'm really grateful for it. And so I'm grateful to read a couple passages to you. They're short. So the book is mostly takes place in present day San Jose, California, which if you look at the cover, so it looks like a queen and in her kingdom, but if you turn it upside down, you have a young girl in San Jose, which is one of my favorite.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I really love that feature. I'm really happy with it. And you can also, there's stickers and bookmarks up there that you can get with the cover too. So the book is told in present day, but my character Jolie is haunted by these dreams and these myths that are in her grandfather's mythology book. And what she doesn't realize until maybe halfway through the book are these myths are actually telling her story. They're telling the story of her origins when she was a little baby goddess in Vietnam. So I'll read two of them. The first one is called The Myth of the Tay Boy, part one. The Tay Boy is the psychic. That's the word, the Vietnamese word I use for the psychic that figures prominently in these books too. Over 2,000 years ago, a young fisherman named Lam Xuan Hien had gone swimming in the ocean when he encountered a dragon under the water, napping in a cave of rocks. Most men would have panicked and tried to swim away. Instead, our ancestors swam down to meet this magical creature. Impressed with his courage and curiosity, the dragon spoke to him. She granted him ears that could understand her language, lungs that could breathe underwater, and eyes that allowed him to look into the past and the future. For hours they played, shared stories, and sang to each other. He did not want to leave her, But as a human, he needed to return to land. He'd already spent too much time away, and his family would be missing him. But the dragon had grown attached. She still had so much more to share. So the dragon offered him a present, one he could carry away from the ocean. She gave him a glittering yellow flower. Once he consumed it, their spirits would remain connected, bonded for eternity. She would know what it was like to be a human, and he would know what it was like to be a dragon. This gift, while generous and loving, changed their destinies forever, for this was not the dragon's gift to give, especially not to a human. When Lam Xuan Hien emerged from the ocean, his feet could feel the change from silky water to pebbly sand. His hands and hair could sense the breeze from the air and the warmth from the sun. But he could no longer see, not the beach, nor his dogs running toward him, nor his family members surrounding him, relieved that he was still alive. According to his family, his eyes and hair had turned bright white, his skin had wrinkled and darkened. His night under the sea had aged him 50 years. His family mourned his aging, blindness, and ridiculous chatter about the dragon he met under the ocean. They ignored his prophecies and warnings. They wished for their old father to return. He did not care. He was more interested in everything else he could now see. And so the second myth takes place about, I would say, like 100 years later. It's called the myth of the egg. When the elders recounted the story of the ancient egg washing ashore in their small village, the color was never the same. Some said it was violet, others orange, and a few said it changed color throughout the day. What they could agree upon was that no one dared to come near it. 5 times the size of any chicken or duck egg, it was larger than the biggest durian. Many people in the village speculated that the bulbous sphere harbored evil spirits, and they warned of getting too close, especially when the fissures started appearing, spindling along its glowing shell. Once an egg begins to crack, it is only a matter of time before the creature emerges. But that didn't happen. Days, then weeks passed. The curiosity grew into alarm until a village meeting commanded the egg's exile back into the ocean. It took several villagers to drag the egg across the sand toward the water. With every roll, some of the men claimed to feel the egg growing heavier, denser. During the struggle, the sky darkened and it began to rain, which seemed to help the men as the egg began to slip toward the water. When the sand-speckled egg finally touched the lapping waves, a cloud of steam exploded from the largest crack, filling the beach with fog. The villagers who'd been watching further up the beach strained to see past the mist, but heard a piercing scream. The cry came from one of the men running towards them, pointing back to a large black talon curling over the top of the jagged eggshell. It was hatching. The men had pushed the egg as far as they could and retreated to watch from the shoreline with the rest of the villagers. Yet the egg remained inexplicably buoyant, its heaviness defying gravity as its cracked shell bobbed and danced along the waves. Several more black talons poked through the shell, a scaly lavender tentacle emerging on top as if waving to them. The villagers watched, breathless, unable to move or look at anything else. But the creature, whatever it was, did not break through. Instead, amid the lapping waves and fizzy sea spray, a buzz grew, quiet at first, then steadily building in volume. The creature was crying, howling. Finally, one person emerged from the still crowd, a young woman, the new wife of one of the wealthiest farmers in the village. She strode through the sand, wading through the waves, until she dove under the water toward the egg, which had begun to finally sink. Several tense minutes passed. Some of the villagers wondered loudly if she drowned. A few of them privately hoped this was true. A small sacrifice for the good of the village, and at least it wasn't them. When the young woman reemerged on the shore, to the insincere cheers and shouts from the village, she was not alone. In each arm, she carried a tiny, howling human baby. Both had soggy tufts of black hair pasted along their foreheads, scrunched up red faces, little hands balled up in tulip-shaped fists. Their feet knotted around the farmer's wife's arms. What everyone remarked upon later was how their skin glowed, twinkling in the sunlight. Some of them swore that when the baby's eyes opened, there were no visible pupils. Their eyes shined white like the moon. They were also undeniably human. No large black talons, no scaly tentacles or monstrous sea creatures. Just two crying babies. Yet no one stepped forward to help her. This is how the Chung sisters first came to the Vietnamese people. Later, their human mother would tell them that she heard them calling for her, that she could see them struggling in the water. All her life, she could see and hear things that others could not, just like her grandfather. She was the first and last female Tay boy in her lineage. These were the queens the divine dragon under the sea had promised would come. All her life, her ancestors had been waiting for them to arrive, and they did not disappoint. Thank you.
Right, that was magical. Thank you so much, Aimee. Right, our next reader is Thien Pham. He's a graphic novelist and teacher based in Oakland. Thien is the author and illustrator of the graphic novel Sumo and the illustrator for the middle grade graphic novel Level Up, written by, it's dark, Jean Yang. Thien's latest book, Family Style, a memoir about his family's immigration to America, told through the lens of food. It came out in 2023. Family Style won the Eisner Award for Best Memoir and has been on numerous best of lists, including the Washington Post Top 10 Graphic Novels of 2023 and Publishers Weekly's 20 Books We Love. Family Style was also a finalist for the ALA YALSA Excellence in Nonfiction California Young Adult Book Award. Please give a warm welcome to Thien Pham.
Hi, everybody. This is my first event with DVAN, and it's really awesome. And I'm so happy that you guys invited me, even though my name is Pham and not Fan. In this world of fans, be a fam. That's what I always say. I was just looking at Family Style back there. I haven't really looked at it for a while. It came out about 3 years ago, and it's amazing, you guys. it's so good. It's so good. And it almost didn't get made. I've been a graphic novelist for a long time, but I never wanted to do a nonfiction work. And it wasn't until like 2006 that I was telling my friend Jean Yang about like how my parents and I came to America, and he was like, "Dude, you gotta tell that story. It's the only thing interesting about you." And I was like, I mean, it's tough to hear, but it's true. It is really the only thing interesting about me. And I started trying to draw it, but I just couldn't do it. This was back in 2007. I have notes. I have all this stuff from 2007 I look back on. I just couldn't do it, and I just didn't figure out. I didn't know why I couldn't do it, but I just couldn't do it. So I didn't do it. And then recently, while I'm doing other things, 2 other great graphic novels about the Vietnamese diaspora comes out. T. Bui, who's a good friend of ours, came out with this book, this amazing book called The Best We Could Do. And I was like, okay, I guess there goes that idea, you know, because I didn't know if there was enough room in the world for 2 books, 2 graphic novels about the Vietnamese diaspora, you know. And so I was like, okay, I won't do this book anymore. Her book was so great. And then the pandemic hit, and I had a chance to, during the pandemic, I was worried about my parents. I would go and visit them every weekend. I drive to San Jose, where the Dragons live. I drive all the way to San Jose and hang out with them. And I would do this every week. And after like a couple of weeks, I was like, I really don't have anything more to talk to you guys about, and just sitting there, staring at them while we eat our pho. And finally, I worked up the courage, because I don't know if your parents are the same, your Vietnamese immigrant parents are the same, but my parents never told us anything. Like, they were always like, they would keep every trauma to themselves. I never heard about any hardships, and I think it's part of their way of protecting us. But I also think, and this is my new theory, you guys, it's also a way of protecting them. Because I think they don't want to deal with that trauma as well, and they've never wanted to face it. So I finally was like, Mom, I'm 48. You are, I don't know how old you are, but you're old. And so it's time, time to tell me this story. And she started telling me the story. And it was so moving. It was so much more than I ever thought it was gonna be. Like, I came in thinking, hey, tell me a story, and I walked out like, you're the best mom in the world. And the sacrifices that my parents went through, the things they went through just for us to have a life in America, was extraordinary and so moving. And I was just complaining about having to reset their Wi-Fi. And here I'm like hearing this story about, all the things they've done just so I can come to America and become a comic book artist, And so as soon as I got home, I'm like, I have to tell this story. This is the time. I have to tell this story. But I still couldn't figure out how to tell it, because again, there were all these great graphic novels about this already, and they had their own voice. Like T really had her own voice when she told this story. She told it through the birth of her child, her son, and I thought it was so great. But I didn't really know how to do it. And then the next week, I was talking to my mom, and she said, well, tell me what you remember about coming to Vietnam. And I was like, well, I don't remember much, but what I remember was, I remember the rice ball you gave me on the boat. I remember, the first potato chip I had when I came to America. And I realized quickly that all my memories were all tied to food. Like, it was all tied to things that I was eating, And even to this day, if you ask me, hey, Thien, what did you do on Thursday? I'll be like, oh yeah, I had that really great, I went to that place and had really good crawfish. And then I can tell you the rest of the story, So my point of reference has always been food. And even to this day, I write, I draw about food, I write about food. So I said, that's perfect. I'm going to tell this story through memories of food. And as soon as that happened, you guys, it just like flow. I don't know if this has ever happened to you writers and such, but it just kind of flowed out of me. Like no drafts, no notes, it just flew out. And I was doing it just on the Instagrams. I was just doing it for the grams. I was doing it for the likes. So I would post a page a day on Instagram and let people read it. And as I'm posting, people are starting to read it and they're starting to like it. And it was a really great exercise in telling comics. I had never told stories that way before, but it really motivated me to draw every day and to draw the story every day. And it was also really awesome because my parents were able to read it every day, and they were able to give me like real-time feedback, where they'll be like, you got that wrong, fix it, or whatever. And it's kind of neat because I was looking at this book. Another great part of this book is that in the back there's an addendum, and there are little like strips about my parents' reaction to this book in real time. And it's kind of funny to read now. So anyways, I'm going to do a little reading of this book. This is going to be the first 10 pages. Yeah, so I hope you enjoy. I'm going to try to figure out how I can do this. Let's see. Oh, that's me. All right. Okay, here we go. All right. I'm going to turn this up. My very first memory is from when I was 5. It wasn't a sight or a sound. I told you, don't drink the seawater. I'm so thirsty. That water is only going to make you thirstier. This boat is falling apart and there's no more food and water. Shh. I don't think we're going to make it. You worry too much. But shh, go to sleep. We'll be fine. They said they can take us as far as they can. They'll give us some food and water for money. We have 5 people. Can we get some more? She's lying. We only have 4. I'm going to save this rice ball for you. What's wrong? Shit, it's getting threats from the pirates. They're gonna kick us all off. I think those are the pirate boats over there. That boat is heading straight for us. They're coming. Ted, listen to me. I need you to close your eyes and hold on to me and don't let go no matter what. Don't let go. It'll be okay. I'm here. They're here. It'll be okay. I'm right here. Just close your eyes. It's gonna be okay. I'm right here with you. I'm here. Thank you, you guys. I'll come to something there.
Show us your shirt.
What?
Show us your shirt.
I wore a chicken tender shirt today to this meeting, and I was like, it was really hot, but I was like, I gotta wear this over it because I didn't want the shirt to undercut the seriousness of this book. Because I think if I was up here crying with a chicken tender shirt on, it would be a little weird. So, so I just I wanted to end this with a couple of plugs. I don't know if you guys are, the Zine Fest is on Sunday. I'm the special guest at the Zine Fest this year. If you'd like to come out, there's a panel at 3 to 4 with other graphic novelists and stuff like that. And thank you so much for everything, you guys. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Thien. That was really moving and powerful, and also made me hungry because, like, so much of I think my upbringing as well came from food and memory of food, and now it's like pho and banh mi are everywhere, and you can get it at the airport. So it's pretty awesome. That is one of the big legacies of the Vietnamese diaspora. So and a really good one. So thank you, Thien, for bringing your incredible story to us through food. All right, our last reader is Minnie Phan, and Minnie is an artist whose clients include the SF MoMA and Chronicle Books. She has illustrated a citywide reading campaign for the San Francisco Public Library, 15 posters for the Fillmore, woohoo, love the Fillmore, and a 250 square foot mural for Google. Working at the intersection of art and social impact, Minnie has been recognized by the New York Times, Society of Illustrators, and Eisner Awards. She is the illustrator of several books, including The Yellow Ao Yai by Han Bui and Simone by Viet Thanh Nguyen. Please welcome Minnie Phan.
You're all so sexy. I love this crowd. Hello. Thank you, DVAN, Kathy. Thank you, Green Apple Books, for having all of us here reading. This is such a special moment. I got my Thien Pham night crew in the crowd. If you need friends, find Vietnamese people and practice your terrible Vietnamese with them. It's really fun. Really fun. Okay, so I'm going to jump right into this. I am sharing today Simone, a picture book that I wrote with Viet, who's a writer, and I'm an illustrator. We're both storytellers. And I wanted to share this book specifically while thinking about the theme of legacies. I went to art school, California College of the Arts, with my parents' complete disapproval. They were so heartbroken. But I was determined because the moment I found purpose, I found power. When I found power, I found movement and reason, and I've suddenly cared about life and living and doing something. So I went to art school, and when I graduated, after 4 years, paying for it by myself, 2 jobs, etc., my mom calls me and she says, "When are you moving back home?" I said, "Mom, I'm going to stay in the city. I'm going to be an artist." She goes, "You can't do that. First, no. Second, you can't live alone in a city. You're a woman. Women don't do that. You need a husband, and you need to get a job, and you need to be an American." And I realized in that moment the legacy that my mother came from was a legacy of women who could not speak for themselves, could not live for themselves, who had to put something else before them. And so for me, the legacy that I wanted to pull forward was a world in which I could tell my own story. I could tell her story, that I could be an agent of change, an agent of my own life. And so I went to art school and graduated and thought, I'm going to make it. And I was invited to my very first DVAN event in 2014 by Aimee Phan, who was one of my teachers at CCA. And I went to this DVAN event and I met Viet, who 10 years ago was debuting a tiny novel called The Sympathizer. And here is the audience. It was intimate, similar to this event. And this is Viet giving the very first reading. And there's me in the back row, wearing a cute dress. And I remember I asked the very first question, his very first Q&A. And I remember hearing him talk and I thought, I'm gonna work with that guy one day. One day, I just think he's so cool, so smart, so interesting. And I watched his career catapult. And I watched him not just rise as his own individual writer and voice in the world, but he was a rising tide, carrying others with him in the diaspora. And now today, he's not just speaking for the Vietnamese people, he's speaking for the Palestinians, speaking for the oppressed across the world. So this is how it started in 2014, and this is how it's going in 2025. This is us in LA promoting our book. We went on a multi-city tour. I spent all of 2025. I went to LA, San Francisco, New York, Toronto. We spoke at 9 different stores. I spoke in front of an audience of 200 kids. It was just beautiful. And in 10 years as an illustrator, I've all the things that Kathy read. I've illustrated books, murals, magazines, newspapers, and Viet, who debuted The Sympathizer at 43, and after working about 20-something years as a professor at USC. His debut novel won the Pulitzer Prize. He became a MacArthur Grant Genius Awardee. Several of his books have become National Book Award finalists. And neither of us knew how our lives were going to turn out, how our artistic passions were going to turn out. What we did know was that we were always, we were children who loved to draw and write and get lost in the world of stories, and that we never let go of that. And so when I think about the word legacies, so many of us think about the legacy of the Vietnam War, the legacy of the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War was this year. But for me, when I think of the word legacy, I think of the legacy of artists, all who came before me, all who will find me. And I trust that the work that I create, if it speaks to one person, that's what matters. Because for me, one work of art changed my life. One person really influenced my life. And so I'm honored to be speaking about legacies today. And now I'm going to roll into speaking about Simone, which is a book that Viet describes as a story about the power of art to make a difference in the lives of individuals and collectives. I usually say it's about climate disaster, but whatever. He can say what he wants. Okay, so we're gonna roll right into it. You know, it's like, I was sitting in that audience and I was like, man, I got this. It's gonna be so easy. And I'm looking at all you hotties. I'm like, oh, I'm so nervous. Okay, Simone. Words by Viet Thanh Nguyen and art by me. By the way, I pitched this to Viet, not my publisher. I was the one who called him. So I'll tell you later. Come find me. I'll tell you more stories. Simone. I was dreaming of the ocean. I heard its roar. The waves caught me, carried me away. But I wasn't scared. Wake up, baby. Wake up. What's wrong, Mom? We have to go, Simone. Get what's important. Fire! Evacuate now! I grabbed my go bag, food, band-aids, flashlights, and clothes. But what about all the things I love? Let's go, Simone. I can't decide. Bring some books. We've got to go, baby. Isn't this your favorite toy? I love all my books, but I couldn't take them all. Oh, I'll be back for you. I'd never seen anything like this before. It was like a movie. Meow, honk, beep. It's more fun when there's kids in the audience, just saying. Bring out your inner child, y'all. But this was real life. Vroom. CDCR. What's CDCR? California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. They're prisoners. But they're also firefighters. Did they do bad things? Maybe. But now they're doing good things. I was terrified, but I was going away from the fire. The firefighters were going right into the fire. Everything will be okay, baby. I know. I've been through this before. Really? With a fire? With water before I came here. The roar of the plane startled me. I'd never seen one fly so low. Mom was born in Vietnam. She came here on a plane. I'd never been there. She always said it was a beautiful country. Whoosh. Ma promises she'll take me one day. Simone, I'll never forget the flood. I was only a little girl back then, your age. All I could bring was my crayons. They were my most precious thing. Look everywhere. Ma is the only Vietnamese word I know. What's nước? Nước means water. but it also means country. A country of water? Okay. The shelter was at the high school gym. I'd never been there before. It was so big, and there were so many people, and pets, and other kids. What happened to your house? To your family? The flood receded. We went back. We cleaned up. Did anyone die? No, darling. We all lived. I could see how scared everyone was. The adults were louder than the kids. Climate catastrophe, global warming, we couldn't find the cat. I thought about Ma and when she was little and all that water. I remember something Mom said sometimes. You don't fight fire with fire. You fight fire with water. I didn't have any water, but I had my pens and pencils. I started to draw. Drawing always makes me feel better. Firefighters wear yellow. They wear orange too. Anybody can be a firefighter. Girls too. Make sure you draw girl firefighters. And black and Asian and brown firefighters, just like me. Just like us. Come on, draw with me. Are the firefighters gonna save us? I was scared, but he was more scared. I had to be the big girl. Sure they will. Draw me your house. Let's see how beautiful it is. We stayed at the gym for a few days. We made new friends. We even put up drawings on the wall. Somebody's missing a cat. That's not good. Then we got to go home. Some people weren't lucky. Some people were, like this cat. We were lucky. But what about next time? Who would save us? Ding dong. Hello. Oh, it's good to see you again. That's when I knew. It was up to us. We are the firefighters. The end. And so actually that book was written in 2020 during the massive wildfires that affected California. I wrote a story about a young girl who used art to learn about herself and the world around her. And I pitched it to a publisher and they said, oh, we love your art, but your writing it could be better. And I was like, okay. And they asked me, would you like to work with a writer? And I said, I've got somebody in mind. His name's Thien Pham. He's a Pulitzer Prize winning author. And the publisher said, I mean, we'll try. And something happened, some magic, and Viet sent me an email and said, hey, call me. So I called him and I pitched him cold on the phone. I've got this really beautiful idea for a book. I sent him a storyboard, no words, and I swear I bombed. I swear he was like, oh man, this girl, she's too much, she's a bit extra. 20 minutes later, I got an email. He said, okay, let's do it. And I joke with Viet. I asked him, hey, how long did it take you to write the words? He said, 2 weeks. And then he asked me, how long did it take you to draw the pictures? I said, 4 years. But it was worth it. This is a full circle moment for me. My very first event with DVAN I attended was Viet's launch of the Sympathizer. And my very first event speaking with DVAN is for the book that we created together. So thank you everyone for coming to tonight's event.
Right. Well, just so you know, Viet Thanh Nguyen is the founder of DVAN and also on our board. As Minnie said very aptly, you know, he continues. When she thinks about legacies, she thinks about the artists who came before and on whose shoulders so many artists rest. And the fact that, you know, we now have people to look up to within our own communities is just an amazing, amazing thing. And that's what DVAN hopes to also bring to the next generation. So any of you budding artists, graphic illustrators, graphic novelists, fiction writers. You're out there, and we are here to support you. So please know that you have a community, and it is not just a community, we're based here, but it is a diasporic worldwide community. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here this evening. We do have a little bit of time for questions. If you have any questions for our readers, also please support Green Apple Books, support the authors, pick up a book. They'll sign it for you. We're here, and we're just so delighted to be partnering with Green Apple Books. And thank you all for being here. It was a lot.